corrections sometimes need to be made, and I'm happy to say that I have found, and it has finally been released after all this time, Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s birth time. So we're doing a redo of his chart because the first one I did is now incorrect. So let's unpack the real Bozzy astrology of RFK Jr. Welcome, my name is Lydia, and this is the Feng Shui and Bozzy Chinese Astrology channel. Often on this channel, I like to read the charts of famous people because I think it helps us to better understand our own charts and our own lives. Welcome. So, yes, I had originally, this beautiful woman, Amy from Moon Mindology Astrology, had posted that she had done a Neo-Vedic astrology reading, and to her estimate, she believed that Bobby Kennedy was born at 9:24 in the morning. But it has recently been found that his actual birth time is 5:32 in the afternoon, 1732, on January 17th, 1954. This is interesting. He's no longer a snake hour and a snake year. He's now a rooster day and a rooster hour. And this is going to change everything that I had said before about him for the most part. There's kind of like a shift in emphasis and some other pieces and parts. So I'm not going to do a full, complete read like I did before, but I will say that it's going to get interesting. So as with all of this fabulous political readings that I'm doing, because I personally find it like a puzzle to be solved, to understand. This election is like no other. And I'm not exactly sure why our democracy has actually allowed the whole focus to be on two parties and two people when there are multiple other people running that weren't invited on the debate stage, that aren't included in mainstream media for the most part. When has that ever happened before? I don't know. But this stuff is like, wow. So please know that all I'm doing is looking at charts. I know these are big, important people, friends. Please keep your comments kind. If it doesn't speak to you, just move on. You don't have to listen to me. But if you want to listen to me, subscribe, like, and hit the bell. And leave a comment or a question that is in some way interesting and not inflamed. Because good God, this world needs more kindness and respect all around the world. So that being said, welcome again. So Bobby is born the year Yin Water Snake, the month of Yin Wood Ox, the day of Yin Water Rooster, the hour of Yin Metal Rooster. First thing to recognize, this guy is almost all yin. This is someone who, for all his tough exterior, is actually very connected to his divine feminine. Much in the same way, Johnny Depp and Bruce Willis's charts are also predominantly yin. And a man who's in their divine feminine does not mean they're gay. Let's just say that. It means that they tend to be people that are more nurturing, caring, patient, maternal. There is a softness to their character. They're more passive than they are aggressive. And yet, the animals associated with their year and their day, the day being who you are, and the most important signature in a Bozzy Chinese astrology chart, really can say, yes, this is someone in their divine feminine, but they have a strength in this or that. So this is so interesting, right? Because, when I first look at a chart, I'm looking at flow and I'm looking at what's happening. This man is sitting on yin metal and his hour is all yin metal. Rooster is yin metal and yin metal is sitting on top. This speaks almost entirely this man's romantic relationships, his career, and his relationship with his children are one and the same. One and the same. What is that? This is someone who very much is connected to the path of the teacher, the path of the educator. One could also, in turn, say someone that is a student. You have to learn in order to teach, right? It also speaks of faith. This is someone that has a spiritual connection with his children and his wives. And in that, it can also be, if it is not overtly, actively being experienced, it can be something on a soul level where the women that he has been with and his children are a karmic relationship. These are soul contracts that his soul came into in order to experience these people and to grow on a soul level through his romantic relationships, through his relationships with his younger siblings and his children. Very interesting. The other thing about this as his career is this is someone who his career is all about ethics. This is someone that is sitting on ethics. And as a rooster day, rooster hour, he speaks his truth. He speaks his truth. And he can be very inflamed and cocky like a rooster. He can come off as arrogant. And, this is such a strong signature for him that I find it really like he brings himself to the stage of his career. He is somebody that is very direct and very clear. He speaks with knowledge. Again, he is an innate teacher. And he's very resourceful and very resilient. This isn't somebody that comes down easy. And he can be, kind of boastful and arrogant and cocky and argumentative. But he is somebody to be listened to and heard. That's his signature. That is very strong for him. So all that to be said, the biggest part of his shift, now that we have the correct hour, is that the metal element, even as he is born in the month of the ox, which is yin earth, the yin earth is actually weak. It's 13%. It's not that strong. His fire being the weakest element at 6%. We're going backwards. His wood, his output, is also weak at 11%. His own watery self, yin water, he's kind of like misty dew, is 21%, where all his energy is metal. This is a Zhao bird chart, 49%. This shows someone who has way too much mama resource. It's a penalty against him. It's too much. It's like 50% of his chart is what nourishes him. It's too much. It's like being force-fed, right? More than 2 helpings, right? So that being said, what really could help him is the wood element. We need those elements, the wood and the fire, to warm his chart, because his chart is too cold and damp. Too cold and damp. Yeah. So interesting that his throat, the spasmodic dysphonia, wow, that's a mouthful, is a neurological disorder, right? And so those elements of fire and earth being weak, this is part of the reason why, all that metal draining. So when we have a big imbalance in our 5 elements of our Basi astrology, what happens with that is that some aspect of your physical body is going to be impacted. Okay, so for instance, my chart, I have no wood in my chart, and I know that my liver is the weakest organ in my body. Therefore, I need to do things that support the wood element. Okay, so I surround myself with nature. Nature is the wood element. I spend lots of time outside. And in that way, I'm nourishing that wood within myself. So anyway, not to get into how to balance your chart through the 5 elements, whole nother activity or whole nother video, right? So this speaks, very interesting how we move through his life. And as we're moving through his life, we remember that in 1968, at the age of 14, he moved into a new luck cycle that spoke of himself, a little boy or young boy, 14 years old, whose father is assassinated the year this luck cycle happened. This luck cycle of the pig speaks of a person who is wrestling with their own identity of self. And you imagine that you're growing into a young man, you're 14 years old, you're going through puberty, all that stuff. Maybe he's like 8th, 9th grade. And here you are trying to wrestle with, who am I, right? I mean, isn't that like one of the angst-filled parts of adolescence? And it speaks of harm to the father, and it speaks of brothers, harm to the father, and radical change and rebelliousness, reactiveness, and that's what that time of his life was. 14 to 23, a hot mess. He's very open and honest about his womanizing, his drug abuse, his alcoholism. These are all reactions, friends, to the trauma of not only losing his father, but just 5 years earlier, losing his beloved uncle, John F. Kennedy. So then as we move forward into his life, as he's becoming an environmental lawyer, writing books, doing a lot of environmental activity, forming associations. I mean, it's a very rich life that he has lived in multiple ways. Yeah, we know. And when we get to 1978, 24 to 33, this is where he had the punishment of the dog and his ox. This ox speaks directly to his parents and older siblings. This speaks of family drama and stress being really difficult for him. This is not an easy time of his life. This might have also been a time when he had to go into rehab. And at the same time, the dog harms both of his roosters, tanking, weakening the metal, which, being a Zhao bird and a fake follow resource chart, having some of that metal weakened is a good thing. Remember that what keeps us alive is sustaining your own element and or the pattern which is formed by the month that you're born, right? So he's a yin water person born in a yin earth month. So this does not directly impact his welfare. But this was okay. It's okay to weaken an overinflamed element. But there's a lot of conflict in here. 1988, yin metal rooster luck cycle for 10 years from the ages of 34 to 43. It's like his luck cycle mirrors his hour. It's like his whole career was magnified like a mirror. You know, when you look at yourself and you're in one of those bathrooms that has multiple mirrors and you're seeing yourself in all these different angles and it's kind of disorienting. That's where he was. It was like his career expanding like a fractal. Anyway, we then get to 1998. We've got a semi-metal trio. This is Yang Metal Monkey. This is big. This is a lot about government and the law. And as we're looking at this Yang metal coming in is with a semi-metal trio is just reinforcing this overinflated metal. It could have felt overwhelming to him. 2008, he moved into his life pillar, and his life pillar of a yin earth sheep battles with his month. It shows conflict with his older siblings and his parents. It surges earth, which is his career and his romantic life, and it weakens water, his own self, and fire. So that time of his life was very much about major shifts in his career. Also, the potential for people to be damaging, destructive. There is mention in here of infidelity, money, his father being an influence. And I've spoken about this before, that I really think his dad is a part of his life journey, because again, this time, 2008 to 2018, was very much about his father influencing him. His current luck cycle of Yang Earth Horse is focusing on his career, law, politics, and change to his career. It speaks of money coming in from various resources and a caution around his health. When we now look at the election coming up is going to be really interesting. And I'm going to talk more about that in another video. But I wanted to update you on this. This chart is really, really interesting. And unlike the other charts of Biden and Trump, if you look at this as a three-way race, which it really truly is, if you're paying attention, his chart is the least inflamed and the least conflicted of the three people. And as I've said to many people, it's important to do your own research and understand the full story of who's running for president of the United States in 2024. So again, keep your comments and questions positive and kind. Otherwise, scroll on, my friends. And until next time, be well.